Welcome back to Barn and Soul. I'm Kendall, and today we're diving into the history of Dalby Farm, how it came to be, the people who built it, the pivotal moments that shaped its evolution, and of course, why we dedicate ourselves to protecting rare and endangered farm breeds. Dalby has been in my family for generations, but it has not always been what it is today. Like any long-standing piece of land, it's changed hands, shifted purpose, and adapted to the times. And through all of that, one thing has remained true. It's been a constant presence in our family's story. Let's start from the beginning. Dalby Farm in Scituate, Massachusetts was originally settled in 1861 by a man named John Dalby. At the time, it was a chicken farm, nothing fancy, just a typical working farm like so many others that made up the rural landscape of Massachusetts, even in this seaside town. Chickens were a staple back then, providing eggs and meat for both our family, I would assume, and I guess the local community. Much of the land around here is still wooded, and by that I mean our land. Scituate is a bit different today, and we can talk about that some other time, but the developed portion of Dalby is only about 5 acres, while the rest remains untouched wilderness, home to wildlife that we have no intention of disturbing. It's interesting to think about how much has changed since John Dalby's time. If he could see the farm now, I wonder what he'd think of it. The chickens are still here, but they don't get served for food. They are our pets. In fact, none of our animals go to market. They are all pets. They are all family. So are the hogs, goats, rabbits, and turkeys. Animals from all over the world that he probably would have never even imagined, let alone on this land. But one thing I do know is he'd recognize the drive and determination it takes to keep the farm running. Every family farm has its cast of characters, and ours is no different. One person who played a major role, though not necessarily in the way we may have hoped, and I say that nicely, I don't mean that with any shade, is Gam, my grandfather's mother. Gam had made some decisions that permanently changed the footprint of our farm. She sold off massive parcels of land, which today make up several neighboring residential spots. She did it for very little money and definitely not realizing any long-term impact. It is one of those family stories that make you shake your head, but at the end of the day, you just have to accept it and move forward. On the other hand, my maternal grandfather, Ed, plays a crucial role, even still at 86 years old, in keeping the farm alive. In his 30s, he became a self-taught builder, and if you look around at the farm today, you're looking at his handiwork. We're talking about the barn, most of these animal enclosures, the shelters, all of it built by him, maybe with some help of others, but not much. Without his effort, I don't know that Dalby would have had that foundation to become what it is today. And then, of course, that's just from like a literal physical standpoint. But then there's my mom, Cheryl, and my dad, Joel, who are the actual reason why Dalby Farm exists as it does today. In the early 2000s, my mom read an article in the Boston Globe that reported one breed of farm animal was disappearing per month. And back then, I think that article itself was written in the 80s or 90s, and that was alarming. It's much worse now. At the time, she couldn't do much. She had 2 kids to raise, me and my brother. But she never did forget that article. She dedicated our farm to the preservation of rare and endangered farm breeds. The farm's purpose has shifted over the years. As I mentioned, it was originally a chicken farm, but for most of its existence, Dalby Farm has simply been a hobby farm, a place where we raised animals as pets, but not in a commercial or educational capacity. And the breeds, I don't know that my mom paid much mind to what they were, aside from the fact that they were good around people and children. That would change around the early 2000s when my mom had begun the real efforts. She connected with the Plymouth Plantation, and we were actually able to start acquiring the breeds we were trying to save. Some of this required my dad to drive 13-hour drives to and from, you know, different states to get these breeds. We're talking about the Ossabaw Island hog, or the Arapara Island goat, the American chinchilla rabbit, Sebastopol geese, all breeds that were, still are, at risk of disappearing. It was in the early 2000s, as she would collect these breeds, that my mom was able to start offering guided farm tours for schools, birthday parties, and even summer learning programs. These experiences introduced children and families to our rare breeds and started to help raise the awareness that we were trying to achieve. But then everything changed again. Like so many other small businesses and farms, we were hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. Our main source of income, school field trips, disappeared overnight. And as if that wasn't enough, my dad's health, which arguably has always been on the decline, was even worse. So, I mean, everything was up in the air. And that's honestly when I jumped in. Although I grew up on the farm and I was always sort of passively involved, I was mostly a creative person, and I never saw myself as the one running the business for the farm. But we needed solutions, and very quickly. That's how Toddler Enrichment was born. In 2020, I launched a program designed for young children to interact with our farm animals in an educational and meaningful way. This was pretty much at the height of lockdown. I had children, little toddlers myself, and no friends with kids. It was a very isolating time, literally. But it allowed families to come outside and interact safely, and also have really, really special experiences around farm animals, which toddlers always love. Not only that, but the program completely changed the financial landscape of the farm, and we were able to expand with more seasonal events and offer more family animal encounters and more hands-on experiences that help deeper connections form between the community and these rare breeds. And let me tell you, watching kids and adults alike light up when they meet them, it's all the hard work is worth it. I grew up on this farm just like my mom did, just like my grandfather did, just like his mom did before him. Some of my earliest memories are of climbing up on Pumpkin's hog house, a small, unimpressive structure, but to me it was my own little perch. I'd sit up there for what felt like hours, looking down at Zeb, a mean old turkey we had at the time, and I had my Walkman, I had NSYNC and Britney blasting, and I had my own little world on top of that roof. But growing up here, it wasn't just about nostalgia. Dalby shaped who I am in ways I couldn't have appreciated until I got older and had children of my own. I have a degree in music business, and entertainment has been my passion. Marketing, sales, e-commerce, not so much, but when I realized the farm needed those things to survive, I, like my grandfather, taught myself. I figured out how to run an online store-ish. I am navigating social media, and I'm figuring out how to use content like this podcast to spread the message. Because at the end of the day, the farm isn't a job, it's my family's legacy, and the passion is real, and so here I am. The shift to rare and endangered farm breeds started with that Boston Globe article. My mom read about it and remembered it. Once my brother and I were older, she took action, and that would have been around the early 2000s. So she worked with the Plymouth Patuxent Museum and other organizations to source and care for these animals responsibly from the start. But it wasn't easy. They're rare for a reason. They're hard to find. They require specific care, and there's a lot of paperwork involved. Believe it or not, you can't just go out and get an endangered farm animal. You need a solid network and reliable sources to ensure you're actually helping conservation efforts. One of the most rewarding things about running Dalby is seeing how much it impacts our community. Our toddler enrichment program has created something truly special. There aren't many opportunities for young kids to connect with nature, let alone endangered species. They get to interact with animals, bring food scraps from home to prevent waste, and build relationships with both animals and each other. And it's not just kids, adults remember too. Our seasonal events like our spring hatch, sitting with the sheep, and summer learning programs bring people back year after year. Some of the kids even grow up to become program leaders themselves once they age out. Now, thanks to my work with Wes Bergman and Beta Blocks, I have a roadmap for scaling our efforts beyond the local community through YouTube, this podcast, blogging, and more. I can take our mission even further. Dalby Farm has been through a lot over 160 years. History, evolution, lots of change. But one thing that has never changed is our love for animals and our commitment to protecting them. Thank you for listening. And if you want to support our mission, share this podcast, follow us on social media, and come visit us at dalbyfarm.com. Our country store has something for everybody. Until next time, take care and don't forget to appreciate the rare and wonderful things in life.